Alright, we're on part 3. We're going to use a game state instead of the screen flag to start things off. That'll just save you a screen flag, so you don't have to use a screen flag for this. Your extra screen load, we use the arcade platformer base. Oop, hold on there. We use the arcade platformer base. So at the very top, it's saying screen flag 0, the first screen flag. That's the one that turns off the sprites. Goes here. So it says if it's equal to it, do not. Screen flags are like backwards kind of deals, so it's weird. So it's like the BNE would normally be here. That would bring you over here. But with the screen flags, so you want to hide the sprites. That would be the first one, and jump to done with that check, so you go to the next check. And that one's right here. You can even put a enter there. And the next one, that's one that turns off the HUD. So when you're on these map screens, you're gonna want to hide the HUD. So you're gonna want to check that one too. That's what I got for the second one. We're just going by the base. Extra screen load, arcade platformer. Alright, so that we were using this screen flag for everything. We don't need to use it, so you can either comment it out, delete everything. All you're gonna need is you're gonna type down LDA game state like this. And then when you do that, make sure it's recording the audio. You're gonna compare it to 3. You could also so you could use 3, or you could use 3. Either one works. If it's equal to it, can switch player. It's not, then it jumps to done switching the player. Does all the other stuff that we were doing before. Object number 0F is 15, just like we talked about in the other video. Jumps to after the check, after it brings back all this. That was up here. Jumps after check. Remember in here, this is important because this is the new created player. So anyway, after it jumps after the check, come over here. If not, this is just what it does at a normal level. Gonna always do this. You need this part in here because you can't turn back if you don't have that. Alright, so yeah, make sure you save that. So when you go to load up your game, okay, we go back to this map screen, go to screen info, you have the hide HUD. We don't need this anymore, so you don't need that checked. Okay, so now watch, when you're on this screen, Overworld Map, you'll be that object 15. Now, I made some inputs to make it so you can have your object 15 on this screen. I even did some edits that we're going to go over next. There's even a warp here. That's an automatic warp like you normally have as a default. I didn't edit the warps yet. This is just a default. But as you see, the player turns back to being normal. Alright, that's the end of this first part. Now we're going to go over the next stuff after that. Alright, for the next part, we're going to edit the physics script. I'll rename this after we edit it. You see right here, there's a link I put down in the script. Alright, if you follow this link, UltraNarwhal came up with a solution. In the platformer, you can only move left or right. When you ignore gravity, you can't go up or down. So you have to do some edits to the handle physics script. So where it says done with gravity bit, you're going to want to paste all this to the skip physics. So here's the script. Here's the done with gravity bit. So after that bit, I put down the link for this, just commented it in there just so it's known. Then here's all the edits. There's the skip physics. This is all at the end of the script, basically. That's where the done gravity bit is. So when you put that in there, it allows your character to move up and down. After you're done doing that, you're going to want to add the up and down movement scripts, move up, move down. They're in your inputs. So when you go into your scripts, it's right here under game, input scripts. Move up, move down, there's move down, there's move up. So once you've added those, you can go to your input editor, go to Gamestate, click Overworld Map, target player, or target. That'll be your object 15. That'll be down here. That'll be the bottom one right here. If you're doing it with object 16 or something, I don't know how to control it exactly. I think you have to like write a script and even if it's a player, you would have to put at the beginning of the script probably some kind of compare to make sure it's that object or something. Anyway, so you picked a script to run. So you got to move up, you got to move down right here. So with move up, you want to do hold up. That's your move up. And hold down. And that's your move down. Then you want to do press up. Change action to moving. Press down. Change action to moving. Release up. Change action to stop. Release down. Change action to stop. Release up. Stop moving. Release down. Stop moving. If you put all those in properly like that, when you go in the overworld, it should show the objects 15 that you made. They're going to load in the down state. So if you want them facing another direction, you're going to have to add that in there. And they should change to the actions based on the movements you put in there. The UltraNarwhal edit to your physics allows you to go up and down. And over here I just put the warp. As you see, when you warp in, you're back to being that object 0 again. Object 0 was the original player character. If you look at the collisions, I made everything solid around where you're going. And then I made the warp on that little dot right there. I made a copy of the warp to screen file and I put that in with the tiles. This is the warp to screen file. This is the default warp to screen. If you're using multiple warps on a screen, you're going to have to do it a different way. It's similar to this, but not quite. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reverse this, BEQ, player for warp tile. And then what we're going to put in here is to jump to here. Okay, I'm going to save it. I'm going to rename it. Double check that it works. So it's renamed. Now we're going to put it in the spot for that slot for 3. Alright, so you go over here, project settings, script settings. Should be tile 3 right here. Warp to screen. You want to use the one that's in your project now. The only edit is the one that we put on there. You can even test that out now and make sure it still works. It still works. And now we're going to start editing the file. Alright, just put a bunch of comments in there. So it compares X to the player object. Then, like I said, if it's equal, goes to player for warp tile. If it's not, below is what happens. Then it goes to this spot. It's right here at the end of the script. Alright, so far so good. Now when you get here, is where the fun begins. Alright, so we got below is going to be the check for the input A button on the gamepad for the warp tile. So you check for the gamepad. This is the bit for the A button. It's that backwards type of logic thingy where if it's not equal, whatever, it kind of warp. Well, it'll warp if it's the A button. So below is the same thing as this one. I could probably even take that off. It's literally the same spot it's going to, which is that. If not, it does the warp, which is can warp. And here's your warp, etc. Hold on 1 second. There we go, I added that in there. So this is just going to be your generic warp, your normal setup warp location. So let's test it out. Go to the spot. Oh look, he's not warping. Okay, I hit the A button. I hit the A button and he worked. Or did I set that for the B button? Hold on, let me double check my controls because it's the A button on my controller. I'm using an Xbox controller. That's why when you're playing this, it's a good idea when you're testing if you have these controllers on the screen, the bottom of your emulator, so you can see what you're pushing sometimes if you're using something other than a Nintendo controller on your computer. So that would be the A button, and it works. Yeah, so now you have a warp with that. The only thing we don't have right now is multiple warps on the screen. There's multiple ways to do that too. You could have it set up you could write a whole code out where it basically checks the screen number you're on, which this would be 1-3 in the overworld, but I think it would be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Yeah, I think it there's exactly enough across that it basically counts the hexadecimal. So like 1, 2, 3. I would think this would be number 31 or something like that. So I would check that against 31 or something like that. Like if you were checking the screen number. But you could also use screen bytes. You could also use your when you have your user screen bytes set up. We could do that in another video. 14 and 15 can have subtypes. So there's 8 different locations there, 8 different locations there, but each one is a totally different tile. So you could have the tile check for multiple things too. Each tile could do what just a normal tile could do. So you could have each subtype or each tile on a normal tile check even a user screen byte. If you have a user screen byte set up, you can use say the 8th one, which is 707, and you could have like that be to if you're on this screen, this warp will take you to this spot or to another screen, and then you could have another tile set up or something. Um, Hold on, I'll show you. Project settings. Here's your tiles down here. Pick a tile, any tile. I guess as long as it's not your solid. Or your blank. You could have like because you're on this overworld map, that check we put at the beginning of your extra screen loads that we added right here at the beginning of this video for the Overworld Map check right there, you could basically put that at the beginning of any script. And if you're on the Overworld Map, it would be like this is what happens when you're on the Overworld. This is the normal, like, script stuff. So, like, if it's a tie, sorry, I'm losing my voice. If it's a tile or something, then it would just do its normal tile routine. It basically, you'd write a thing like jump to do normal tile thing or something, and then you write down an entry. It would be like kind of like how we did for after the check on here. You'd write down an entry. It would be like do the tile, normal tile stuff, and under that would be your normal tile, which is kind of like this. So it's like this would be the do the normal tile thing if it was a different tile. And then this would be like under here would be all the normal tile stuff. So say you wanted to go to a different screen, this is what we're going to do. When you're not on these screens, you don't push A when you're warping. We're going to make it so you push up. So when you're on the screen you warp to, when you're on this screen, we could have a little door tile, and that would be your warp. And when you're on this screen, you push up to warp. It's not an automatic warp. Or you could just have a normal warp tile that activates normal. Like just a warp tile, which we could do that too. So if you were gonna make it up on the D-pad, you would just have this in the check. That would be your check for up. And you literally just copy paste this and like, put it down here. We're gonna change some of this stuff around. But anyway, that's the check for up. There, that's back. So let's change that around real quick. Sorry, this is taking so long. Anyway, so you put the check down here to see if you were on that game state. So essentially, you just even copy this. Check A input. Not check at input or whatever, an input or whatever. Just check A input because we're looking for A. So we're gonna make that right here. And if not, we're not gonna do the not player for warp tile because it is the player for warp tile. You're on a normal screen. gonna do like the original can warp. So it's gonna be can warp normal. Can warp normal would be it's just a normal warp. There's no check. So we're not checking a button here. If we're checking a button, we'd put this part in here, and then we'd have that part I told you earlier about right there, the 1 and then the 0. That would be here, and then you'd put the can warp part. That would be this part down here. So that should just warp now when you're on a normal screen. So first, I'm going to check that it still works. So when you go on the tile, it's still going to be the same way. Hit A, you warp. Okay, now we're going to go on this screen. We're going to put a tile on this screen and see if everything goes cool on this one. I'm going to null that out. Make that just a blank. You see there's that. We're going to make the warp tile. Still a warp tile. There's the collision for that. Well, somehow that collision didn't, there we go. And then what this screen is going to go to is, we're going to go right back to the other screen again. So it's going to go to 1-3. Just for funsies. I'm going to create an infinite loop of warps. So 1-3 comes here, and well, we've seen that how many times already? And then here is going to go to 1-3. So double check your screen info. Sometimes you got to do that. There you go, 1-3. So let's test this out. The normal warp, so it's just going to be, there you go. And this one hit A, one just warp right when you touch it. Heck, you know what? I'll include the warp with the up button in there, just for I'll comment it out when I release the official code, because I'm going to share these codes afterward. They're basically, the base codes from this tutorial series. And then after all that's shared, you can choose whether you want to uncomment it or not. And then if you uncomment it, it'll make it so you have to press the button. And then if not, then not. It's all good. And this is what it would look like. There we go. So the only thing I forgot to copy was this part. Oops. There we go. Alright, so this is your gamepad check. That checks for the up button. And then here we go. Testing it out. Here we are. Go over here. Oh look, you can't warp until you hit A. Go over here. Oh look, you can't warp. Hit up. See my controller input over here in the bottom? Here we go. Up. Walking over. Hitting A. Walking over. Hitting up. As you see, it works. Now I'm going to comment out that code, and then I will, if you want to use it, you just uncomment this. Just those 4 lines. I'll even put like uncomment for up button check. And then I'm going to share this code with you after the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this helped you make your overworld map screen. And I hope you have a wonderful day. If you want to have future video on this for multiple warps per screen or something like that, we can do that. But we're going to go and do other tutorials. So special thanks to Dale Coop for his scripts, and special thanks to UltraNarwhal for the fixes to the Dohandlephysics. I will be sharing the extra load edited script, and then I'm going to be sharing the Dohandlephysics and the warp to screen code. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day. Please subscribe for more videos and be notified.